Good morning, and thanks everybody for joining. I'd like to welcome everyone to week 7 of the 2024 Watershed Wednesday series. Most of you know me, but I am Emily Dekar, the Agricultural Coordinator for the Upper Susquehanna Coalition. Watershed Wednesdays are hosted by the Upper Susquehanna Coalition and the Otsego County Conservation Association, and we'll be holding sessions every Wednesday through November 20th. The full schedule is posted on our website and our Facebook page. You can also sign up for email announcements on the USC website under the Watershed Wednesdays tab. The sessions are recorded and can be accessed on the USC website at a later date. We usually have them up within a day or two. So to get things started, our presenter today is Ashley Seifert. Ashley is the Director of Sustainability for Southern Tier 8 Regional Board, a regional planning and economic development board serving 8 counties in the southern tier of New York, where she works within the region to advance sustainability, climate adaptation, and watershed planning. Before working at the regional board, Ashley worked in transportation planning for the Greater Binghamton Area's Metropolitan Planning Organization. She received her bachelor's degree in environmental studies and political science from Villanova University and her master's degree in public administration, focusing on sustainable communities from Binghamton University. Ashley has lived and worked in Madagascar, Kenya, Italy, and New York, where she has used her GIS skills as well as her understanding of water resources, climate adaptation, and sustainability to help foster stronger and more resilient communities. Ashley's going to give you an overview of New York's Climate Smart Communities program, fostering community engagement and helping municipalities prepare for the effects of climate change. So with that, I will turn it over to Ashley.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. I forgot I gave you such a in-depth bio. All right. So just to get started, again, I'm Ashley Seifert, Director at Southern Tier 8 Regional Board. So we are a planning and economic development board, and we cover 8 counties in the Southern Tier. And so the northernmost counties we cover are up at the start of the Susquehanna River watershed. So it's Schoharie and Otsego counties. And then we cover down to the Pennsylvania border with Tioga County. And then I'm based in Binghamton, so Broome County down here. And thanks again for joining us for another Watershed Wednesday. And I'm super excited to talk to you guys about the Climate Smart Communities program and go over some of the successes and what New York State's doing in the program. So, advance. Perfect. Okay. So climate change. We've all known about the effects of climate change for decades, but this Climate Smart Communities program is really based off trying to mitigate and adapt to the effects of climate change that we've been seeing. And so in 2019, because of the increased impacts that we're seeing across the state, country, and world, New York State passed the Climate Act as a roadmap to reduce greenhouse gas emissions through 2050. So it's focused on renewable energy production and consumption with milestones over the next 25 years. So by 2040, the state would like to see a 100% zero emission electricity with an 85% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 from the 1990 levels. And so the most short-term goal that you'll see on here for 2025 is to have 6,000 megawatts of solar by 2025. And I researched this, and as of September 1st, New York State had about 5,800 megawatts of solar with 3,000 megawatts of solar in the pipeline. So it's awesome to see that we're kind of on our way to meet that milestone. But, in order to continue to meet these goals, New York needs a commitment from basically everyone in the state, from residents, business owners, and the industrial sector, and also importantly from municipalities, because municipal operations are a lead producer of greenhouse gas emissions. Municipalities own a lot of, energy producing buildings and transportation. So there needs to be that commitment from the municipal sector. And that's where we've seen New York State have an increased investment in this Climate Smart Communities program because it is municipality focused. So what is the CSC program? So it's a New York State program, and it's a partnership between 8 New York State entities, with DEC being the lead, but also NYSERDA, DOH, DOS, they're all involved. And it's really to help local governments take action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to a changing climate. And so the program offers grants, rebates for electric vehicles, and then free technical assistance through people like me throughout the state. So every municipality in New York State has a Climate Smart Communities regional coordinator that you can reach out to for assistance. And so right now for me, I cover Broome County, Chenango County, and Delaware County, and then some of Tioga. And so you can reach out to them for any questions or just to get involved in the program if you want to know more. And so currently there are 428 registered communities in the CSE program. 142 of them are bronze certified and 17 of them are silver certified communities with almost 10 million people living in a climate smart community. And so the major program goals are to, one, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, build resiliency to the impacts of climate change, save taxpayer dollars, increase energy security and energy reliability, improve community public health and safety, support a green innovation economy, and demonstrate leadership. And so this is really a leadership program that New York State's promoting. So they want municipalities that are, devoted to and interested in adapting to climate change and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And they're not really trying to pull teeth by forcing communities to get involved. So there is a big focus on that leadership aspect. And so in order to become a climate smart community, the first thing that you would do is pass a resolution. And so this has to do with taking the CSE pledge, and you pass it via municipal resolution. And so it's just a pledge saying that, your municipality recognizes the effects of climate change and is interested in and committed to mitigating those effects or adapting to climate change. And it's by no means binding. I have a lot of municipalities, especially in the rural areas, that are like, oh, if we pass this, do we have to, have every parking lot in our municipality be a green parking lot going forward? And the answer is by no means, definitely not. You don't have to do anything after you pass this. I have a community that signed the pledge in 2017, and they haven't done anything since then. And that's not something I recommend, but I'm just, you don't have to do anything. So I just like to make that known to communities because that is a concern. But after you pass the resolution, you would designate a primary contact on the portal. And the portal, this is where you can see all of these actions that the community can do. And then you would form a CSC task force and establish a CSC coordinator. So the CSC coordinator is really just that lead person in your community that is leading the charge. Will upload things to the portal, will delegate to the task force, or be that intermediary between the task force and the municipality. And so the task force can be involved with any people. I have communities where it's primarily, 9 out of 10 are just volunteers or residents. And then I have one trustee on there. Or I have communities where it's really, spearheaded by the mayor, and it's all people that work for the village with 1 or 2 volunteers. So it can be really what you make of it or what you want out of it. But on many of the task force, there are government officials, local business owners, there's volunteers, there's residents. I have one task force where they have a climate scientist and a hydrologist. So that's a really awesome task force to work with. So it is, whoever's committed in your community to making changes can be on this task force. So after you kind of establish those mandatory baseline actions, which is just the task force and the coordinator, then you would really review and select the actions that your community is most interested in. And so with this program, there's over 100 actions to choose from, and the goal is to get to 120 points in the program. And so you can really just, select actions that you're most interested in. There's none that you really have to do. So if you're really interested in greenhouse gas reductions, there's a whole section on that, and you can, do all of them if you want to. If you're really interested in working with the community, you can do a lot of public engagement events or education events. So there are some programs in New York State where it's more prescriptive and there's only 8 or 10 actions to choose from. But it is what you make of it, and you can choose actions that most interest you. And so once you do that, and you do enough actions and you get to 120 points for bronze certification, you would collect that documentation and upload it to the CSC portal and hopefully become certified and submit that application. And so I have some communities where, it takes them a year and a half if they're really committed to work through the program and get certified, and other communities where it takes a few years. So it's at your own pace, which I think is very awesome. And so just quickly, in my opinion, what I've seen make a successful climate smart community. So having a strong coordinator, and that could be a volunteer in your community. It could be a lot of our larger municipalities, they have planning department. So if you have a strong director of planning or just a planner in your municipality, those are good people to be the coordinator. I have some municipalities where it is the clerk or a trustee. And then having a motivated task force that's really committed to making changes in the community. And then, as I said before, I have some communities where they have a hydrologist, a climate scientist, but just really having a task force that's diverse with a wide knowledge. So the more people, you don't want to have so many people that it loses the effectiveness, but just having diverse perspectives, getting a business owner, getting someone who's more interested in historic preservation, getting a trustee on there, it can help with the different perspectives and they can tackle different areas throughout the program. And then also there are climate smart communities focused grants that you can apply for through the CFA and outside of the consolidated funding application process within New York State. So I think really taking advantage of the CSC grants that are offered can really help you be successful in the program. And I just wanted to go over some actions that you can choose from. And let me just move my bar. It's in the way. So actions that you could do in the program, there's a bucket for conserving natural areas. So I tried to make these more, the actions that I chose more tailored to, the soil and water people and people that are out there doing more education and natural work. So conserving natural areas, you can do an open space conservation plan. You can have a finance mechanism for local land, protecting natural areas. So these are all things that would get you points in the program. A local forestry program, so adopting a tree preservation ordinance, doing tree planting projects, installing green infrastructure, so doing a green infrastructure plan for your municipality, and then implementing green infrastructure, that would get you points, installing riparian buffers, looking at your culverts and dams, so doing an assessment of your culverts and dams, having a management plan, and then actually going out there and right-sizing the culverts and dams, which get you points. And then some other ones are converting lights to LED, conducting a greenhouse gas inventory, and doing a climate adaptation plan. These are all examples of actions. So if any of them interest you, reach out to me. But just quickly, local actions in the Climate Smart Community Program. So I just took a couple of municipalities that are closer in my area, what they're doing right now. So we have Broome County. They're certified bronze. They actually just finished recertifying, and they were working on a sustainable Broome panel and a sustainable operations plan for the county. And then they actually have a CSC grant for remote watershed monitoring that they were awarded through this program. The Village of Owego, they completed a complete streets policy. They did riparian buffer plantings and then a climate adaptation plan, and I'll get more into their adaptation plan later. And then they actually have a climate smart community grant for the community rating system. So this is a FEMA program to reduce your flood insurance rates. If you work through the program, your whole municipality can get a reduction in rates. So they actually got a grant from the CSC program to pursue that. So it's awesome to work on them with that as well, with them. The city of Binghamton, they completed their application in September 2023 and were certified bronze. And they did most recently a climate action plan and a greenhouse gas inventory, which they're currently in the process of adopting. And then the Village of Delhi, working with them on a climate adaptation plan as well. And they also got a water treatment plan resiliency CSC grant most recently. So there's a lot of things that you can work on, a lot of things going on in our local communities and grants that you can get. And so more into the grants. So the CSC program has two different kind of funding buckets. The first is the municipal zero emission vehicles, so ZEV grants, and these are rebates for electric vehicles and also charging stations for your municipality. So you can get, I think, $7,500 in rebates if you get a hybrid or electric vehicle. And then if you install a charging fueling station, you can get rebates for that as well. And then there are CSC specific grants, and these are capacity building grants for local governments to implement projects by supporting planning, inventorying, assessments that align with the CSC program. And it's really for the implementation of projects to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate change. So projects that fit the overall goal of the CSC program. And so more specifically, there are certification grants. So these are grants that are specific to those actions in the CSC program. They'll help you work through it. So if you need extra funding to actually pursue an action, this is where you would get funding for that. So examples on here are a community climate action plan, a climate vulnerability assessment, a climate adaptation plan. So these are all things that you can apply directly through the CFA to get funding to complete those. And then they also have implementation grants. So these are actually going out there and implementing the projects that would reduce greenhouse gases, so mitigate greenhouse gases, or also adapt to climate change. So some examples of these are reducing vehicles mile traveled. So if you are working on complete streets, installing bike lanes, sidewalks, things that will get people out of cars, you can get funding for that. Anaerobic digestion of wastewater treatment plants, and then management of refrigerants. Those are mitigation type of actions. And then in the adaptation bucket, so this is adapting to climate change. Some example projects are increasing natural resilience through floodplain restoration. So you can get grant funding for floodplain restoration, which is of much interest to the communities that I work with along the Susquehanna. And then flood risk reduction. So right-sizing bridges or culverts. These are things that your municipality might be doing already, and it might be nice to have that extra funding so you can apply through the CSC program for those as well. And so I just wanted to get into some examples of CSC grants. So the city of Portland, they did a pedestrian and bicyclist connections project, and they actually got $2 million in CSC funding, which is amazing. And this project included dual bike lanes, new sidewalks, vegetated medians, LED lighting, new pavement, landscaping, and it really connected Clinton Ave to SUNY Cortland and Yemen Park. So that's a lot of money. So this project might not have been done, without the CSC funding. And then another kind of streetscape connectivity project is in the city of Kingston, so out in the Hudson Valley. They also got almost $1 million in CSC funding. And this was focused on, redoing an intersection that was unsafe for pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars, and turning it into that bottom picture with a rotary and better pedestrian crossings. And with it, they did 49 bioswales, so we got the infrastructure in there, street trees, hundreds, almost 1,500 plants, and then, ADA accessible sidewalks and paving and the new configuration. So again, a project that might not have been done without CSC funding. And then the last specific grant award I wanted to discuss. So this was for Cuyahoga Creek stream and floodplain restoration. So this project got almost $300,000 in CSC funding. And so with this project, there was an issue of development within the watershed, and the stream channel was straightened, led to the loss of riparian habitat and floodplain, and this resulted in increased downstream flooding. And so with this project, the goals were to design and implement stream and habitat restoration, reconnect the floodplains, increase stewardship and connection with the neighbors, and then establish aquatic, riparian, wetland, and upland habitats throughout the property. So by getting this grant, they were able to, restore the floodplain, which led to a lot of community benefits, including reducing flooding, increasing access to green space, increased connection with the local environment, and increased opportunities within that area. So these are just 3 examples of what you can kind of do with these CSC grants if you choose to pursue them. And then I just wanted to get into a case study with the Climate Smart Communities program and integrating it with other programs in New York State. So the Village of Owego, recently, their hazard mitigation plan annex. It was a partnership between Tioga County with the Planning Department, as well as Soil and Water Conservation District with Wendy Walsh. And then for the Village of Owego team, Barton and LeJudas Consulting, they were working on the entire county's hazard mitigation plan. And then Julie Nucci Consulting was working on the village's annex, and I was working on the village's annex. And basically, it was a huge partnership, and we actually won a National Hazard Mitigation Planning Award for innovative approaches to hazard mitigation planning. And so basically some background. As a CSC coordinator throughout the region, I work with New York State to carry out the CSC program, and I have to complete a number of climate adaptation plans through my work. So as I was, strongly partnering with the Village of Owego through the CSC program back in 2023, I plan to work on them on a climate adaptation plan where I would basically assess the village, its operations, do some community visioning, workshops, and work out, what the village, how they want their community to look in 50 years, and how does it adapt to climate change and get to their vision. And so at the same time as this, Barton and LaJudas was completing the county's hazard mitigation plan and was starting to reach out to the municipalities to work on their individual annexes. And we saw the synergies between the hazard mitigation planning process with the new element of considering the effects of climate change and future conditions, which you can see highlighted on the screen. And so we thought this was basically the perfect opportunity to do almost a pilot climate adaptation and hazard mitigation combined annex for the Village of Owego. And so just some quickly, hazard mitigation and climate adaptation. So both of them are really, their overall goal is to reduce risk, protect life and property, and enhance community preparedness for future conditions. The hazard mitigation planning process is really more focused on reducing or eliminating risks, minimizing the impact of disasters. And it's a bit nearer term focus, so it's updated every 5 years. So there's a lot of actions that they want you to complete within that 5 years. Whereas for the climate adaptation planning process, it's for the community to prepare and adjust to the climate change impacts, and it's a longer term outlook. So we did like a scenario planning exercise of what the village would look like in 50 years. And it uses the hazard mitigation plan as like a vulnerability assessment. So there's a lot of overlap between the two, and that's where we thought that it would be awesome to do them at the same time, and then you don't have to get, 2 different plans adopted. So it streamlined that process. So basically, in the final annex, we completed several actions in the CSC program by digging deeper into the overall process and taking advantage of the synergies between the two. So the first thing we did was conduct that climate vulnerability assessment. And this is usually met in a normal hazard mitigation planning process, but we expanded on it by looking beyond just critical facilities and their risks to looking at vulnerable populations. So like the elderly, youth, low income, and also looking at, and where they are in the village, and then looking at, potential underutilized property in the village too. So it was kind of taking the normal vulnerability assessment that's done in the HMP and expanding on it. And that got the village 16 points in the CSC program. So if you remember, in order to get certified bronze, you need 120 points. So this is all going towards that. So after that, we then conducted, it's called Evaluate Policies for Climate Resilience. So this is an action where we met with a stakeholder group with people, from historic preservation, from DPW, from emergency services, soil and water. And we basically looked at an Excel file that New York State provides, and it's like 100 questions. And it's basically looking to assess whether the village has completed a number of things, such as, does it have certain floodplain regulations? Does the village have a comprehensive plan? Is there early flood warning detection, and a lot more? And so you use the answers to that question and come up with a list of priority actions for the village to pursue. And so this action got the village 6 points. And then the climate adaptation plan is integrated into the overall hazard mitigation plan process, but we did further community outreach, visioning, scenario planning that I talked about for future conditions, where the village was projected to, have a hotter, more severe storms. And so how do we tackle that? And what does that look like in the future? And so we come up with adaptation measures and mitigation measures, and there's a ton of overlap, such as like looking at the Owego Creek and how that's affecting flooding. The stormwater system, tackling that is an adaptation action. So that whole process got the village 15 points in the CSC program. And then the 3 above made it so that, the village naturally had a climate resilient hazard mitigation plan, which got them 4 points. So altogether, the village received 41 points out of 120 points needed to become certified bronze. So about 1/3 of the points, which is awesome, because, having those 41 points got the village to the 120 points, which allowed them to get certified bronze. So as you can see in this graph, the village got, this is the Clean Energy Community Scorecard, which is another New York State program. But with this program, as you work through it, you get direct money, which is different from the CSE program, but they're integrated a bit. So becoming certified bronze got the village 800 points in the Clean Energy Communities program. And this allowed them to get over 5,000 points in the Clean Energy Communities program, which got the village nearly $250,000 in funding from the CEC program that so they're now utilizing that $240,000 to do further clean energy upgrades in the village, such as installing an EV charger, getting DPW an electric vehicle, which is huge because the department did not have any funds for a new vehicle. And then they're hoping to install solar on the village hall in their pursuit for a net zero village hall. So none of this would have happened without the integration between all of the programs, the HMB planning process, the Climate Smart Communities program, and the CEC program. So for the village, we really tried to leverage all the programs together and get them the best outcome that we could. So in summary, basically, CSD coordinators are here for you at your disposal for anything, climate smart communities related, adapting to climate change, working on different actions, and each community, in New York State has one that you can reach out to. So use us as you wish. And basically that's all I have. And thanks for listening. And let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Ashley. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and come off mute and ask them that way. There is one comment from Amy Wyatt from OCCA. She said in the Mohawk Valley, you can connect with Samantha Francisco. So I don't know, Ashley, if you can see the chat, but she has contact information there.
Okay, perfect.
We'll give it a minute. We do have a couple minutes left here if anybody has any questions.
I'll just put this back on the screen so you can see, which county you're covered by. So these are all, covered by regional boards. So
put in a comment really quick. This is Amy Wyant. The Climate Smart Communities program is spectacular. It's a wonderful, wonderful framework. And it's something that we absolutely love working with municipalities on and just continuing helping them do these actions because it gives them a great way to organize their thoughts and organize their activities and something to work towards. So if anyone's at all interested, I highly, highly, highly recommend thinking about it and reaching out to Ashley or to Samantha, depending on where you're located, or even Tara, if you're up in the capital region. But definitely talk to your municipal folks because this is a great program. So
thanks, Amy. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I have a lot of organizations or community members that are very, excited about working on, climate change, or they're passionate about the environment, but they don't know where to start for their community. So I love the CSE program because, like you said, it really does give them that framework and gives them options for things that they could work on that they might not have thought about, or, if they don't know where to start, it gives them a great list. So thanks for sharing that.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So this is our presentation for next week, evaluating water quality trends in agricultural watersheds prioritized for management. It's going to be presented by Jimmy Weber, who is a USGS hydrologist. So again, that presentation next week will be at 9:30 next Wednesday, October 30th. Otherwise, as a reminder, everything will be posted on the USC website and Facebook page. So if you joined us a little late, you can catch the whole presentation there. Otherwise, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.